I'd like to thank all of our panelists for being here today, and I'd like to ask them all to briefly introduce themselves and then respond to the first question that I have. And my first question is to ask all of them to give you all one or two pieces of advice to keep in mind as you get started in your first year here at MSU.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm DeAndra Beck. I'm the Associate Dean for Research in International Studies and Programs. And my portfolio is actually helping all of you be successful in your global research engagement, whether it's basic science, education, or training and capacity building. So this is a short session today, but if you have questions about it, please see me afterwards. I'm happy to talk to you more. My advice, I guess, to you, I've been at Michigan State 4.5 years, so I'm relatively new, and so I know what it's like to sit in your seat. And it reminds me of my first trip to Indonesia when I was newly out of graduate school. It was the first time I'd been to a developing country context at the time, and I looked at my travel guide and I learned all the, kind of nice ways to say hello and what I wanted to see. But I didn't spend enough time on the culture of the country. And there were some things that I really missed when I first came. And I was very lucky to be traveling with some senior Foreign Service officers who helped guide me through some of the things I didn't know about. Like, it may not always be culturally appropriate to shake somebody's hand as a woman in Indonesia. The other thing I didn't know was, well, you can't cross your legs and show the bottom of your feet. That's very rude. So I learned kind of early in my career, you have to ask. We're all smart people. We're sitting around a room and we're very educated, but sometimes we need to be asking questions. So my advice is get a mentor and don't be afraid to ask questions. It's actually a sign more of what you will accomplish here is your willingness to ask questions rather than always trying to figure it out yourself.
Thank you. I'm Deborah Johnson. I am the director of the Diversity Research Network within the Office for Inclusion and Intercultural Initiatives. And I also have an appointment. I'm a full professor in Human Development and Family Studies. I'm a child developmentalist. So that's my vocation. I'm still an active researcher, so happy to do that. My advice, I have a couple pieces, so I'll try to be short. I want to piggyback on your suggestion about mentorship in two different ways. One is to actually and actively seek mentorship and support. For some of you, the Diversity Research Network will be one of those places, an institutional setting in which you can find that. And this can be particularly important for faculty of color and international faculty who can sometimes feel isolated in their spaces and find it difficult at times to have well-matched mentorship in their spaces. So think about, all of you think about what your needs are and consider mentorship from multiple sources, not necessarily just one center point. Another idea is not just to seek mentorship, but to be a good mentor to students, perhaps to postdocs and others that work with you. And remember that they are producing work that supports your career. So how can you best support them? What do they need? Think about what your needs have been in your time to PhD, and think about how you can be a good mentor and serve them. And one last piece of advice, I know I was only supposed to do one or two, is to, as you're doing your work and as you're moving along in your careers and your trajectories, we can work really hard, and you're all here because you've worked hard. But remember to reward yourself along the way. Remember to take a moment to give yourself a little bit of a pat on the back, a reward. That might be a massage, that might be an extra ice cream, that might be a day off every once in a while. So that's my advice.
Hi, I'm Mary Morash, and I'm professor in the School of Criminal Justice. And My advice is actually similar to yours. So this is like triangulation. We have three people saying something similar, which is to really kind of study the culture you find yourself in. Everyone comes in with a letter of expectations and a plan for what they're supposed to do. But sometimes the terms and what's realistic and what's real can be hard to figure out. So to spend a lot of time talking to people and just watching and listening and trying to figure out what are the real standards, what are the actual expectations. And the other thing, which is a little different from what everyone has said, is even while you're doing that and you're trying to be adaptive to your situation and the reality of what's going on, which does change over time, I'd say just be sure to stay true to your strengths and your interests, because that's what really sustains people in the long run. I think it's a real mistake to just try to always be doing what you think others want you to do, or switching depending on what grants are available, but instead to really focus on where you're going and have a strategy of your own and be aware of your context and adapt to it, but keep that central focus going all the time.
Okay. I'm Yadu Pokhrel from the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering. I started as an assistant professor here at MSU in 2014, so this is my 6th year now. I have completed 5 years. My suggestion, I echo the same thing about having a good mentor. When I came here as a new assistant professor, I didn't have a lot of experience about grant writing. I helped my postdoc advisor a little bit in writing an NSF proposal, just one. But except for that, I didn't have a lot of experience. So when I came here, everything was on my own. Writing proposals, writing papers, recruiting students, teaching courses, and doing some sort of service to the department, all kinds of things. And so having a mentor, I found that having a mentor was really, really important. I had a very good mentor in the department, and also outside the department. I had 2 mentors. They helped me a lot about what to do, what not to do. That's one thing. And also talk to your department chair. Because at one point, I was asked by my department chair, why did you spend a couple of months in doing that? That is not going to be helpful for your tenure. It's going to hurt you. So there are differences in expectations across departments, across colleges. So it's very important to be, constantly talking to your chair so that you know what is expected, what you should be doing, what you should not be doing. And also, the other suggestion is a little more specific. Utilizing your startup package. I think startup is given to all of you. The type and the size of startup may vary, but I think that is reasonable for the type of research that you do. So I almost made some mistakes in using my startup package, but I talked to my mentor and they said, don't do this. You have to do this, otherwise you will face some issues later on. So effectively, because startup package with that, you can try to get the most out of that startup package, because in the first 2 years or so, you may not have big grants. And for me, I use that for some sort of international travel. I have 5 international projects right now. I didn't have any money to do international travel. Those are expensive. You can find a way to travel domestically, but international travels are expensive if you're doing any kind of international research. So I used my startup package to do some international travel. I was given money to buy some computing server, but I talked to my mentor and he said, don't spend your entire money right now. What are you going to do with that? Because you have one student in your lab. So talk to your chair, and instead of buying a server, go and reallocate those resources, get another student so that you can have another person to work in your lab. So that is how I worked with my mentor and effectively utilized my startup package. So that is my second piece of advice. I think I'll stop here and I can come back to other points later.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Shade. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Microbiology and Molecular Genetics, and I also have a small appointment in the Department of Plant, Soil, and Microbial Sciences. My departments are across 2 different colleges, and I'm a research active faculty, and so I think if you have questions about starting a research lab and being on the tenure track and kind of navigating that, that's where I can offer some insights maybe, or share my experiences. As far as the new advice that I had, the two pieces, I was really focused on thinking about organizing your time and your goals. And so I would recommend to just take the time that it needs to decide what you want to accomplish in this next year and how you're going to keep yourself on track to accomplish it given all the other demands, even ones you're not even expecting right now, that are going to happen on your time. And in addition to that, I would recommend trying to hold yourself accountable to these goals by deciding what the clear metrics of success will be for you to achieve it. Like for instance, in my field, if I'm like, okay, in my first year, I really need to start up my lab and generate these preliminary data, and I will know if I'm successful because when I apply for my grant deadline next year, I will be able to include those preliminary data in that grant. And so be as specific as you need to be so that you can keep yourself on track and hold yourself accountable and measure your success and then celebrate it. I think the other point of advice that I had was to think early on about how to optimize your productivity by being aware of yourself and how you work. I'm a morning person, and so it is a complete waste of my morning to be sitting in meetings. So I try to schedule all of my meetings for the afternoon when my brain is not as on task. So just as an example, if you know what habits that you have promote your productivity and make sure you protect your time for that work that needs to be done, that's thoughtful, academic, intellectual work, that might help you go a long way. And really protect it. Like, don't schedule meetings over it. Don't let your students sweet talk you into like doing X or Y. Protect it for yourself and for your intellectual pursuits.
Good afternoon. My name is Sitara Thobani, and I'm an assistant professor in the residential college in the arts and humanities. First, let me just say congratulations to all of you on your new positions, and welcome to MSU. This is now the start of my third year here. And I think in terms of the advice that I have to give, particularly based on my experiences, are to just jump in. And I mean that in a couple of different ways. The first way is to really feel free and all right to focus on the work that you want to do. I think that's something that appears to be quite obvious, but actually needs to be done quite consciously. You'll find that, yes, a lot of demands will be made of your time, but saying that I'm new to MSU, I'm new in my position, I have a lot to do, is actually something that people really understand. And you'll find that people, especially if you have good people in mentorship positions, will actually be very protective of your time. So that I can say a lot of the things that I've taken on are really things that I want to do, that I want to be a part of, because I feel like I'm learning from them. So really feel free to focus on your time and be selective in the things that you take on. The second way that I mean jump in by is to really kind of get to know the various networks that are on campus. MSU is massive. It can feel very decentralized, very siloed, yet there are tons of networks across campus that I have found to be incredibly supportive environments, both professionally, and here I can't stop saying enough about Deborah and the DRN, the Diversity Research Network. If you're at all associated with area studies, there's various area studies programs, Asian studies, Muslim studies are two that I'm involved with that are across campus that really bring people together, but also personally as well. And so one group that I'd like to bring your attention to is Quorum, which is the Coalition of Racial and Ethnic Minority Faculty and Staff. And it's really a coalition of the 4 faculty and staff associations that represent racialized faculty and staff on campus. That's the Black Faculty and Staff Association, BFSAA, EAGLE, which is the Indigenous Faculty and Staff Association, CHILA, which is the Chicano and Latinx Faculty and Staff Association, and then the longest is APIDA AFSA, which is the Asian Pacific Islander, Desi American and Asian Faculty and Staff Association. So if those are groups that you identify with, again, that's one other example of a network that you might find on campus. So really jump in, because it's through those kinds of networks that I found that I'm getting to learn my way around MSU. And I'll say I'm still learning my way around MSU. It wasn't, I'm not a diligent reader and going through the handbooks and everything, but it was just kind of constant conversations with people that have helped me navigate the space so far.
Thank you.